Hey, I'm Saif, and today I will show you my full character design process from this Valkyrie character, showing you how I drew the concept in Procreate and what my thoughts were, and I will also show you the sculpting process and the rendering process in Blender. Let's talk about the concept of the Valkyrie I drew in Procreate. I had a big person in mind, bigger than a human. She should look worn out and wiry from long battles. Braids are a practical hairstyle for a fighter with long hair. The clothing should also look worn and partially replaced. I tried out many outfits and in the end I thought that a coat could be a good idea. I would make her silhouette more exciting, and a round brooch with a ring ornament would hint at her old role as an angel of death. I also choose a cloak because the 4-year-long Fimbulwinter, which heralds the arrival of Ragnarök, has probably turned the climate permanently into an icy hell. I then drew front view, side view and back view. With the finished concept, she's ready for sculpting in Blender. We watched the whole thing in a time-lapse that runs at about 100 times speed. I start with the block out of the Valkyrie. After inserting the references into Blender, start breaking the body down into simple shapes without wasting too much time on details. It is important to first create a good basis that you can work with later. It also helps to divide the body into segments. That way, I don't just see one big task ahead of me, but lots of small ones. As you can see in the video, I already do this with the basic shapes, one after the other. Afterwards, I struggled with modeling hands. They weren't that easy, but I wanted to try them once in my life without a reference. For that, they're quite cool. Finally, I simulated the code with cloth simulation in Blender, so it's relatively easy. It was cool to see how the mesh wrinkles, super cool and very time saving, and unfortunately also very performance consuming. Now to the hat. Oh yes, the hat. It really took me a lot of time. First, you play a bit with the eye sockets and insert 2 spheres. Then you slowly build up the bone structure around them, which defines the cheeks, forehead and brow area. This takes quite a long time, and you also have to be careful here. This is very difficult for me as I'm left-handed and use the computer mouse with my right hand to sculpt. I don't use a pen or a graphic tablet. The eyebrows, the eyelids and the nose make her look much more human now. I really had my problems with the ears. The cartilage in the auricle is curved and quite complex, so that took also a lot of tries and a lot of use of reference. I made the lips by using basic shapes here too. There was still a lot of tinkering, but this method helped me a lot. Without it, I would have been shot and the Valkyrie would still have inflatable boat lips. There are many ways to create hair in Blender. Since I wanted braids for the Valkyrie, I decided to use curves. Not only are these very easy to make into a braid, but you can also control how the individual braid should lay over your head. Practical. Then all you have to do is duplicate this one braid and perhaps scale it a little and adjust it, and you have a hairstyle, which is tied into a plate at the back of a hat. A metal hairband and tangled ends of the braids should make the whole thing look more warlike or warrior-like. Then I devoted myself to the torso and stuck to the Valkyrie body shape. The retopology is basically translating the high poly model into a low poly mesh that is better for posing or animation, and this stuff cost me energy, man, and frustration. I spare you the whole process and jump right to the retopologized mesh, and therefore I use a little trick
I found on the Blender homepage that there are really cool base meshes that are free to use, and because of the fact that most of the body part of her is not visible and under her cloak, I thought it should be enough to sculpt head, torso and feet, and the rest could be brought in from one of these basic models. And that worked out perfectly. I used mixer mode to help me with rigging and weight painting. A free service from Adobe. Just upload the character as FBX file, set important points for bones, select poses or animations or frames of it that you like, and download. Back in Blender you can then fine-tune them. The code was a little tricky. I first had to find out when and how it wrinkles and doesn't look like lint film, but has a certain heaviness. The big viewer part was then sculpted around the neck and torso. With the help of a displace texture, I was able to create the impression of a Fury surface that is not so delicate that you can still easily 3D print it. That was very important to me, because it's brilliant to print something you have made digitally with a 3D print and suddenly hold it in your hand. The brooch with the wings was partly modeled and partly sculpted. I created the connecting pieces with curves again. The model is now ready for rendering. In the last part, I promise, I tried a lot of things and then discarded them. I thought I'd show myself a few wrong turns here, because I think that's important to show also. First I tried to paint the face with vertex paint. Later I tried to see if I could create the skin using a material and a grey white world background. This was followed by lots of experiments with the scene. I imagined a barren landscape with an entrance in the mountain to create some interest. A kind of last inhabited bastion after Ragnarök. But after many attempts, I didn't really like it. It was too far removed from my original design. Shortly afterwards, I decided to show only a few details in color and leave the rest grey. The ground should be blood red. As you may know, rendering the final frame takes a long time, of course. The whole project took me about 40 hours of work, but I'm glad I did it. This is the turnaround. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.